Hi, welcome to In the Garden. I'm your host, Joyce Hochsprung, McLeod County Master Gardener. Today I have a co-host with me. This is Tanya Vosick. She's one of our Master Gardener interns this year. So say hi to Tanya.
Hello, everybody.
We're going to start the tour and we'll go around and if Tanya thinks of some questions for me, she'll ask as we go. We have a few things in the sunnier area, a few lilies. And some balloon flowers and coreopsis that I need to shear. I've done a little picking off of the heads, but I just need to come in here with the grass shears and just take off the top inch or so because there's all kinds of little buds down here that will pop if I do that.
When you talk about shearing, are you just shearing off the stud or are you also shearing off the blooms?
Well, in this case, most of the blooms are done, at least on the top. So I'll probably just take my shears and just go down about an inch, half inch, just enough to clear off the old dead stuff. And that'll let some of these buds below it come up and bloom. And then here we have a lily. I think this one is Pink Diamond or something, Pink Snowflake, sorry. And because of the pink on the buds, I'm assuming I didn't name it, but it's a lovely, lovely white lily, a little bit of a green. And this one was a freebie. It looks similar, but it seems to have a little bit more green in the throat if you look really close. And then the balloon flowers just sort of pop up where they want to. And we've got some darker purples, blues. Over on that area there are some doubles and some lighter ones. Over here we have even a pink one that decided to pop up here. So, not a lot blooming down in this one, but those. You may notice in that bed inside, if Liz can get a shot over there, or maybe we'll have to go around. I do have just a few begonias tucked in there into the bed for a little color in the front of the bed. I used to do all impatiens, and I discovered that as I get older and dragging a hose and hauling watering cans was not quite as much fun as it used to be. So, and since impatiens can be thirsty little things, I've kind of switched to just putting a few begonias in there for a little pop of color because I can usually get by with watering those like once a week or so. Okay, we'll move on around. And the tiger lilies again will grow pretty much anywhere they want to. But I've cut back the martigons. When I say cut back, I mean that I just basically deadheaded them so that I removed any seed pods or the bloom stems because I really I'm not collecting seed from these, so I just deadhead so that I keep this strain, whatever this one is, pure. So don't cut this back until fall, till it's yellowed, because as long as it's green, it's feeding the plant. So I cut just below the bloom. Let's see if I can get back out of here. And then down on this corner, this is my sunny end where things like to fry. And you can see this guy, I need to really stake these. But this is Leichtleinii, which is one of the species lilies. Some people might call it a tiger lily. It's not. That's orange one over there is the only true tiger lily. But this is a fun one. It's got kind of if you look closely at the stem, it's got a dark stem and the dark pedicels that connect to the buds and the blooms, which gives a little added interest. But even this much sun even one I have on the south side leans a little bit. So this one does tend to do that. Again, notice my age and my laziness. I would have at one time done a pot here with impatiens. Again, now I stick a begonia in here for a little color, hang it from my hay bale lifter, and we're good to go. And I only have to water it once, maybe twice a week when it's really hot. So it's a lot better than doing it daily. All right, we'll move on to a sunny bed. Most of what I have left now is sunny. Okay, this is kind of my center island bed, and it kind of really needs a redo, but I haven't quite decided what I want to redo with it yet. So in here we have a couple of daylilies. This one is called Stephanie Returns. I had to get that one because I have a daughter named Stephanie. And then we have Malaysian Monarch, which is in need of dividing, as is Stephanie here, but it's another story. So I have some work to do this fall. And then we get around here, the trumpet lilies are almost finished. There's just a couple left in bloom here. Rising Moon. Usually it has a little more pink on the edge here, but you can get an idea what it, and the scent is incredible on the trumpets. The only one left here yet is Black Beauty to bloom. The Leatrice is just coming into bloom. This is supposed to be my white Leatrice garden, and I somehow or another have this year a few stems of purple in here, which I'll need to mark and dig out. So always something to do. This is kind of a fun daylily down here. This one is called Splittin' Hairs. And let's see, well, that one is tagged, so I don't want to snap those off. Some of these I'm hoping to get seed pods on, if you see some white tags hanging there. But this one is Splittin' Hairs, kind of a fun one. And then I just have a few zinnias and my petunias that are refusing to grow. So,
And then what about the edging around the rock? Because I know other people have rock foundations or maybe some landscaping. How would you suggest selecting, you know, like these types before you get to these types?
I just, it was kind of like a lot of these were here when we bought the place, and I've just moved them around and used what I had. But you can certainly, you know, if you like sedums, but remember they are ground covers. Their purpose is to cover ground, so you are going to have to pull them back from where you don't want them. I mean, that's just the way it is. But it kind of helps to keep down the weeds a little bit in the areas that I haven't mulched. So over on the end, we have another ground cover. This one blooms in June. And this one I'm going to be taking out a bunch of it. We'll probably end up at the fall sale if I can get it done soon enough, and just potting it up. This is called Snow and Summer. These are, actually, this one on the right is Annabelle. This one is Incredible. And if you would look at them, I doubt that you could tell the difference. And in this situation where it's fairly shaded on the north side, I don't see that either one of them stands up really well. Now maybe with more sun, Incredible would be stronger stemmed. Here there's absolutely no difference between that and Annabelle. So if you have Annabelle and you're thinking I'm going to get rid of it and get Incredible, depending on your situation, it may or may not make a difference. So, but I do love the white at this time of the year. It's just great to have it. And I was hoping one of these would be blooming. Stellas are about done, and I have another daylily in there. This is, let me think, another hydrangea, of course. Oh, I guess it got covered with mulch, but so I can't find the tag at the moment. And I don't remember off the top of my head which one it is. I did say I'm getting older, right? This one is Zinfandel. It's getting a little bit burned here. I'm not quite sure why. I thought I'd been keeping it watered well enough, but maybe not. We'll see what happens. And I still have some space. I took out 2 big burning bushes, euonymus. Got tired of pulling out seedlings, and got tired of pruning, the constant pruning on them because they were huge. And I will say that this one over here, thought we could pull it out with a tractor. And I dug down about a foot and we hooked a chain around it, and I thought, well, surely that will do it. And we choked the tractor off 3 times. And I said, okay, let's get the chainsaw. And then we just painted the very edges of the trunk with brush killer, and said we'll just let it rot there and I'll work around it. But I'm thinking I might do another hydrangea or two in here, but I'm not sure yet. We'll keep moving this way. We've done the shade things. Hostas are blooming. And over here we have the Ligularia, which is almost done. It's kind of at the end of its. This variety was not in this place, but it was here when we moved in. And it took me a while to find out what it was with these finely dissected leaves. And I'm fairly certain that it's one called, let's see if I can say it, Przewalski. It's kind of like the prehistoric horse. It's kind of what the name reminds me of. Przewalski or something like that. Or maybe it's Zawolski, I don't know. This is Veronicastrum, just coming into bloom. I put this in last year, so it's still fairly small. This is a native. It'll tolerate part shade. And I also wanted some shade, wanted it to create a little shade for some other things down here, which it's starting to do. This is the white. There is a lavender kind of one too, but this is a native. Pollinators really like it. Just starting to bloom. And then this bed is mainly, the lilies in here are pretty much done. There's LA lilies in here. And LA means that it's a cross between a longiflorum, which is the Easter lily, and an Asiatic lily. These were, the ones in here are some of the first ones that came out, probably 20 years or more, maybe more ago. They've since got taller ones, ones that are out-facing, side-facing. The original ones were pretty much all just up-facing blooms, so they've come a long way with those. And here, down here, just coming into bloom, are summer allium. And I can't believe I had never even heard of these until a couple, was it last year or the year before maybe? And when we taped at Lynette Wentland's and did her tour of her built things, these were in bloom. And I asked if she would be willing to make a trade with me for some other plant, some bulbs. And she very generously did and gave me a big clump, which I divided into many, many, many smaller clumps. And they've reached the size about where I can start dividing them. So, but what I like about these is most alliums, the foliage starts to get brown and kind of ugly even before the bloom is finished. And these just look nice and neat all summer long, right into the fall. The only thing I would caution you is I didn't get some of them deadheaded last year, and I found them coming up out in my garden. And that's a long ways away, but so I will be sure to deadhead them this year when they're finished blooming, because as much as I do love them, and like I said, they're just starting to open here, I don't want them everywhere.
I do have a question for you.
Sure.
You have hydrangeas going on, what is it, the north side of the house. And then you said, okay, you're thinking about putting hydrangeas now on this side of the house. Does a person have to be aware of what side of the house or what type of hydrangea and placement when picking them out?
Yeah, that one up, that big one there isn't blooming yet, but that's a limelight. It has buds, but it's not gone yet. But and later in the day, it will get some sun. That's a panicle hydrangea. They generally prefer more sun, like the Annabelles, the arborescens. They'll handle more shade. So I'm kind of thinking there are some new arborescens, a couple pink ones that I was thinking about putting on the west side. They'll get a couple hours of sun, but you know, we'll see. I'm still debating.
Okay.
But yeah, generally your panicles will take full sun to part shade. It varies a bit, so.
Okay.
And then in this bed, this is what started my daylily obsession, kind of, was this bed. And when I originally planted it, it was mainly because when we put the addition on the house 25 years ago or so, this slope right here, mowing it was challenging to say the least. So I, in my wisdom, said to my husband, well, honey, you know, so you don't have to mow that. What if I just plant daylilies or something there? They'd do a good job of holding the slope, and then you wouldn't have to mow it. And he, still being maybe a little bit naive to my machinations, said, sure. So I ran with it. And when I started out, I just put in daylilies. Since I've been a little more selective, some of these are probably still going to go, possibly to the city parks department, so that I have room for newer varieties. But yeah, I have a bunch in here. Some of them I use quite a bit in when I do my crosses. Some I haven't used much, and some that I don't use are probably ones that will go elsewhere. And so here we have Black-Eyed Susan. That one's been blooming for a while. And Frankie's Fantasy. And if I were really good, I'd have been out here and live headed, taken off the live blooms yesterday, so I didn't have any of these hanging, but I can't bear to do that, so you're gonna have to look at some too. This yellow, bright yellow spider type, and when I talk about a spider type, that means that the petals are longer than the width. And there are like some more kind of rounded ones. There are several different shapes in daylilies and a huge array of colors. The only one there isn't is a true white and of course blue, but otherwise there's just about everything in between. The near whites, and that's what they call them, is near whites, are either a pale pink or a pale yellow usually. And this big one was one that was here when we moved in. I have no idea of the variety, but it's got such a nice big bloom. It's not a great bud count, but it's decent. And it's so cheery, I just probably will keep it. A couple of my, let's see if they're blooming today. Okay, this one should get taller. It was new last year, and some of them will take a year or two to settle in. This one is called Flaming Horse's Butt. So, I mean, how could I resist? I had to get one with a name like that. And I just started using the pollen from that one on a few crosses this year. Here's another favorite. Oops, and I better not tear that off because I'm looking for pods to set. This one is called Shelby Socialite. I love the eye on there and the lightly ruffled edges.
How long will a person expect to have daylilies continue to bloom throughout the season?
There are early blooming ones, mid-season, which is pretty much what we're in now, is the mid-season, at least here in Minnesota. And then there are late blooming ones. I have a couple that will bloom, that will start in August and bloom until frost. There aren't a lot of those because typically daylilies don't open well when night temperatures are below 50. So there aren't a lot of those out there, but there are some. And we also have over here Overdrive, and I gotta watch and make sure, nope, I can't take those off because I've got hoping to set seeds there. And this one apparently did not set a seed, so we'll have to try it again. But this is Overdrive, and this is Strawberry Candy. Over there we have Bella Lugosi, named for the opera singer, I guess. And a few others here and there. We will move on, and if you have a question, stop me and ask. This is a Carol Emmerich introduction, and if you're familiar with her, she has Springwood Gardens down in Jordan and is a very well-known hybridizer. And she works a lot with purples and reds. And about 15 years ago, I did a presentation on daylilies, and I said, you know, if you like all these fancy eyes and edges, too bad. Well, in Minnesota, she kind of moved it along and developed the fancy edges and the eyes. So if you see her name as a hybridizer, you know her. She's down by Jordan, Minnesota. You can go down and tour her Gardens if you make an appointment. And this is one of hers. This is, oh, I have to think here. I keep wanting to say Pahasapa. Oh, here we go. I have a tag. That will tell me. Ah, yes, Tower of Babel, because of the height. She uses a lot of biblical names. And if this one has one fault, this is one of her earliest introductions, or earlier ones. It's that in humid weather or after rainy weather, you'll get a little spotting on the petals. But considering overall the look, I guess I can forgive that. I stick my 4 or 5 dahlias every year into this area. That's their spot, and let them go. Got a couple of, I think this one is Sandra. This one is supposed to be one called Omega, but the tag shows a yellow flower, so I'm not really sure unless it goes more yellow as it ages. This one is one of those huge ones. I probably should have it caged, but so far it's hanging in there. And then over here we have, oh, let's see, what is it? Great something. Great Silence. And I was kind of amazed at, because a couple of these started blooming already in June, and I'm like, you're not supposed to be blooming yet, save something. This is one, it's not registered. This is one of mine that, for my crosses I made. Somebody on Hutch, Minnesota Gardening, Facebook enthusiasts, named it Northern Gilder, which I thought was a pretty good name for it. And it's nothing fancy, but it's got just a nice little ruffled edge, and it has a long bloom season. It started just a couple days ago, and the year it was named, I gave a couple fans to the guy who named it, and I had to dig it. Figured we'd meet up at the fair, and I'd give it to him there, and it was still blooming at our county fair time, which is mid-August, so a good month out of this one for bloom. And of course we have my old willow stump that when we took the tree down, I said, no, don't take the stump down. And kudos to my husband for letting me have it, because usually he's like, get rid of those stumps, they're ugly. And he let me keep these two, which was very thoughtful. And this one, as it started to rot out, I just started dumping potting soil in and stick a petunia in there. I don't know if I'll get another year out of this stump yet or not. Last year I had thought I had it pretty full of potting soil, and I planted and it was going well, and all of a sudden one day I came by and I looked, and the petunia was sitting down about 6 inches lower than it had been. So apparently the bottom finally rotted out. So this year I dumped a lot of potting soil in, and I took a probe and I kept punching it down so that, and it still settled a little bit, but not quite as much. So yeah, we'll see if it gives me another year or not before it completely collapses on itself. And then over here we have gopher teeth, which this is also by a Minnesota hybridizer. Is that Mike Grossman? And I think this one is very appropriately named. It does kind of look like Minnesota gopher colors, and it's got the teeth on the edges, lots of teeth on this one. Supposedly it's supposed to give its teeth to the babies. We'll see. I've got a few out there that should be blooming yet this summer. We'll see if that happens or not. And over here we have some more of the summer allium, and apparently I'm going to have to stake Iowa rose because it likes it too well down here, but there's a couple blooms left on it, so I didn't cut it off quite yet. But one of them's kind of snapped over in the wind, so either that or the dog ran through it. I'm not quite sure which. But this is Iowa rose, a very nice Asiatic. And over here we have Oy Vey, which is usually reblooms, and I see a couple scapes coming up, so yeah, it looks like it will this year. And then down here we have, I believe this is Lady Alice, and she likes to lean, but she's an older variety. So I need to come up with either a taller cage or something, or else I'm just going to have to start staking. I'm not a real good staker. I kind of let things go as they will, but yeah. Thanks for joining us in the garden today. We'll see you next time. That's all we have time for today. We'll pick up on some of this on another episode. Bye-bye.